Welcome to the Explainer. So, today we're diving into a high fantasy adventure where the stakes are, well, literally apocalyptic. But the heroes, they are wonderfully absurd. We're going to retrace the journey of a survivalist band known as the Hand of the Chosen. We'll look at exactly how they went from desperately fleeing a burning city to standing right on the front lines against an ancient demonic threat, leaving an absolute trail of chaos in their wake. It kind of begs the ultimate question, right? How does a mismatched band of pragmatic rogues, gambling warlocks, and baking wizards accidentally become the world's only hope against a demon apocalypse? You'd think that when the sky cracks open and dragons pour out to herald the end of days, you'd get a fellowship of shining, morally flawless knights. But no. Instead, our heroes are bizarrely specific and delightfully chaotic. And honestly, it's that exact contrast, the grim, world-ending reality versus the deeply flawed nature of our party, that makes this story just so fascinating. Let's just drop right into the middle of the chaos where this whole thing kicks off. The city of Duskmere is falling. The air is completely choked with smoke. There are these purple cracks radiating ominous energy through the earth, and dragons are literally snatching guards right up into the sky. It's a scene of total devastation. This is absolutely not a measured tactical retreat, okay? It's a desperate, adrenaline-fueled sprint for survival as the very fabric of their reality gets ripped apart. To really grasp the sheer panic of this, we gotta look at the timeline of the fall. Right at minute 1, our newly formed party barely survives a surging wave of dirt from a dragon attack just by miraculously leaping over it together. Jump to minute 20, and things get wildly pragmatic. Bip the halfling actually ties a bell to a fleeing villager to draw the dragon's attention away. Unbelievable. Then, by minute 59, Wellesley's the dwarf paladin is standing his ground, holding the evacuation portal open to the very last possible second against a charging silver dragon. And somehow, despite those overwhelming odds and, let's face it, incredibly erratic methods, the team manages to save exactly 39 survivors. That's 16 guards and 23 villagers. It's a pretty stunning number when you consider the sheer scale of the assault. It really proves that even in total world-ending chaos, their unorthodox and, sure, sometimes morally questionable survival tactics actually got results. Okay, let's dive into this next part. Section 1, the mismatched core vanguard. Who are these chaotic survivors? So let's step away from the battlefield for just a second to unpack these rich, totally contradictory backgrounds, because you really can't understand the prophecy without understanding the deeply flawed people fulfilling it. We've got Bip, a halfling rogue and amoral lockpick who literally pickpockets for entertainment during mass casualty events. Then there's Wellesley's, the dwarf paladin, a righteous vanguard with a blind obsession for purging evil. Next up is Aconimus, a half-elf warlock who's basically a double-edged sword addicted to both gambling and sinister demon pacts. And finally, Erin, a human ranger who plays the bagpipes and just happens to have a bounty on her head for allegedly starting a war. Like I said, definitely not your typical group of shining saviors. What actually makes their dynamic work is the hilarious, constant friction between them. Picture this. You've got Wellesley's, charging into battle with divine retribution to smite the wicked, standing right next to Bip, who views a literal dragon apocalypse primarily as a fantastic opportunity to snag some unguarded loot. They are complete philosophical opposites, but they're forced to rely on each other just to survive the end of the world. But here's the central mystery that really unites this fractured group. Ever since they fought their way out of that disaster, this lingering, bioluminescent necrotic resonance has permanently marked their skin. Yep, they are all glowing purple. And it's not just some weird magical stain, either. It's the physical manifestation of a rapidly expanding threat that's slowly infecting their entire world. Which brings us to Section 2, marked by purple prophecy, the call to Thornreach. 3 months after they scattered to their respective homes, the heroes are suddenly summoned back together. The world's magic is cracking, and they find out one of them is the key to a prophecy meant to stop it. Shortly after reuniting, they track these bizarre ferret-sized constructs to a clearing and wind up fighting a massive iron golem made entirely of stolen village spoils. During this brutal fight, they recover an artifact called the Black Bead of Force, and this brilliantly illustrates how the battle physically bonds that purple necrotic magic to them permanently. They are now undeniably marked. Now, the crucial point here comes from a revelation by Hal the Bard, an Asimar chronicling their journey. He explains that the purple glow isn't just a curse, it's a compass. The glow on their bodies acts as a tracking mechanism, pointing them directly toward localized scars or cracks in the magic. So, the very magic that marks them as targets? Yeah, It's also the exact tool they need to track down and seal these demonic rifts. Let's move on to Section 3, Fey Bargains and New Allies. Realizing they absolutely cannot fight this creeping evil alone, the team ventures into the magical forests for some guidance and firepower. And honestly, here's where we see the absurd juxtaposition of tabletop adventuring perfectly captured. To track world-ending magical rifts, they need the Water of Finding. And how do they get this vital epic artifact? By sitting down and playing a petty gambling game of rocks with some woodland sprites. You can't make this stuff up. Meanwhile, Automemus the Warlock discovers Fey Syrup, a highly hallucinogenic tree sap, which they casually decide to keep just to sell later. So yeah, they are literally securing the fate of the world through woodland betting games. During this time, they also fold some new allies into the mix. We meet Kolkita, a birdfolk swordsman who acts as a loyal vanguard and brings some much-needed logistical stability to this very chaotic group. And then there's Debbie. Debbie is an elf wizard whose ultimate life goal is, wait for it, winning a family cook-off. Yet somehow, Debbie's domestic quest to prove herself as a baker perfectly aligns with her ability to cast devastating, destructive area of effect spells like Fireball. Moving right along to Section 4, Cleansing the Sunspire Tower. With their newly expanded team, they tackled their first true dungeon as a united front to see if this mismatched vanguard can actually fight cohesively. They head down into the necrotic sublevels, running into specters and cultists. And in a classic moment of party chaos, Aaron pins a cultist down, Adamus starts interrogating him about the god Grogglipack, but the cultist breaks free. Bip tries to trip him but completely fumbles his ball bearings, which just forces Adamus to end the fight quickly. It's a mess, but despite the hiccups, they push forward, take down the corrupted priestess, and Debbie uses her magic to cleanse the corrupted pool. It's totally chaotic, but undeniably effective. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is what happens in the aftermath. Welsis approaches the Sunspire altar and receives this majestic, divine vision from his god. He's granted a holy, blessed weapon, the Great Axe of Torn. And what does this righteous, stoic dwarven paladin name his ancient divine relic? He names it C3PO. I mean, it is just the perfect encapsulation of the campaign's tone. Epic divine majesty immediately undercut by pure absurdity. And that brings us to Section 5, a triumphant culinary conclusion. Leaving the grim, ozone-scented chambers of the Sunspire Tower behind, the party travels to the port town of Nestle Shade. Talk about narrative whiplash. The team transitions directly from battling necrotic horrors, getting blinded by bile spray, and suffering near-death experiences, straight into assisting Debbie in a high-stakes baking competition. In tabletop storytelling, saving the world from a demon apocalypse often just has to take a back seat to winning a local food contest, you know? Priorities. And the crazy part? They actually pull it off by pulling their apocalyptic combat abilities to bake the perfect meal. Debbie uses her high-tier wizardry to magically create food. Welsis uses the divine magic embedded in his holy axe, C3PO, to instantly generate a massive surplus of fresh flora and ingredients. Together, this battle-hardened squad of literal killers helps Debbie utterly defeat her world-renowned father, mother, and brother in the kitchen. It secures her rightful place in her legendary family and honestly cements their bond as a true fellowship. So they've survived dragon sieges, fey gambling, and family cook-offs. But as that purple magic continues to crack the sky, we're left wondering, will this absurd, purple-glowing band of heroes actually be able to seal the demonic veil? Or, as the sinister demon Gormak waits in the shadows, are their chaotic heroics just playing right into the apocalypse's hands? Well, that's a question for our next explainer. Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible journey, and I'll catch you next time.